A storm rages outside as Judge Donovan Hale stares into the cold, lifeless eyes of Jasmine Carter. The echoes of a single gunshot still linger in the air. His hands tremble as he grips the weapon. Was it an accident, or had he finally crossed the line he swore he'd never breach? The security cameras, the blood-stained floor, the weight of his crumbling empire. There is no escape, but what he doesn't know is that Jasmine had already set a trap, one that would tighten around his neck long after she was gone. As the truth unravels, the question remains, was it justice, or was it all part of a game she played too well? Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and let us know where you're watching from. Judge Donovan Hale stood over her, his tailored suit disheveled, his face pale and glistening with sweat. His hand trembled, still clutching the smoking gun. His breathing was ragged, eyes darting around the room, as if searching for an explanation that would make sense of the chaos. Officers shouted commands, but their voices felt distant, drowned by the ringing in his ears. His lips moved, forming words that barely escaped in a whisper. She left me no choice. The weight of those words hung heavy in the air, thick with guilt and disbelief. One officer approached cautiously, his gun drawn. Judge Hale didn't resist. The weapon slipped from his fingers, clattering onto the floor. His gaze remained fixed on Jasmine, his mind struggling to reconcile the girl on the ground with the choices that led him here. Her phone, lying just out of reach, blinked with a message notification, an unopened truth that now held no relevance. Sirens wailed outside, flashing red and blue lights casting eerie patterns across the walls. As handcuffs clicked shut around his wrists, memories flooded his mind. Conversations, glances, moments he thought he could control. The gravity of his actions pressed down on him like a weight too heavy to bear. Rain seeped through the open door, mingling with the blood on the floor, creating a grotesque river that flowed toward the exit. Outside neighbors gathered under umbrellas, their murmurs blending with the storm. Judge Hale's legs gave out, forcing officers to drag him out the door. His world, once built on principles and judgments, crumbled with every step. He looked back one last time, his vision blurred with tears. Jasmine's lifeless form grew distant, swallowed by the flashing lights and chaos. There was no undoing what had been done, only the inevitable judgment that awaited him. Judge Donovan Hale commanded the courtroom with ease, his deep voice cutting through objections like a blade. Outside the courtroom, Jasmine watched from a bench, fascinated by his authority. When court adjourned, he stepped into the hallway, adjusting his cufflinks. Their eyes met briefly. For a moment, the bustling courthouse seemed to quiet. Jasmine smiled politely, expecting a nod at most. But Hale's gaze lingered. Later that afternoon, Jasmine was tasked with delivering files to his chambers. The air inside was rich with the scent of leather and aged books. Hale looked up from his desk, offering a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "You're the new intern, aren't you?" His voice was smooth, each word measured. Jasmine nodded, handing over the documents. His fingers brushed hers, just for a second, but enough to make her pulse quicken. He complimented her work ethic, something harmless enough, yet the warmth in his tone suggested something else entirely. She left the room, heart racing, unsure if she'd imagined it. Days turned into weeks. Their encounters became more frequent, passing glances in hallways, brief conversations that lasted longer than they should. Jasmine found herself drawn to the attention. There was something thrilling about catching the eye of someone so powerful, so untouchable. For Hale, it was different. He knew better, knew the line he was inching toward was one he should never cross. Yet every smirk, every fleeting touch seemed to pull him closer to the edge. One afternoon, after staying late to help with paperwork, Jasmine found herself alone with him again. The office lights cast long shadows across the walls. Hale leaned against his desk, arms crossed. "You've got potential," he said, voice softer now, almost conspiratorial. She laughed nervously, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Their eyes locked. The air between them thickened, heavy with something unspoken. Neither moved, yet both felt the shift, the spark that ignited something dangerous. Outside, the city buzzed with life, unaware of the storm quietly brewing behind closed doors. Choices were being made, lines once clear, now blurred, and neither of them seemed willing or able to pull away. They began meeting outside the courthouse, first under the pretense of career advice. Lunches turned into dinners, each encounter peeling back layers of inhibition. In the privacy of his car, parked in shadowed lots, their conversations grew softer, touches more frequent. Hale gifted her things, jewelry, designer handbags, tokens of attention that left her both flattered and conflicted. Jasmine's friends noticed the change. "You're acting different," one remarked, but she brushed it off, insisting everything was fine. Yet inside, she felt a mix of power and vulnerability. The culmination of their growing obsession came when Hale invited her to a secluded cabin nestled in the mountains. The air was crisp with pine and secrecy. Jasmine hesitated at first, the gravity of their situation pressing down on her. But excitement, the thrill of stepping beyond boundaries, outweighed her caution. Inside the cabin, away from the world's gaze, restraint shattered. Hale, always composed in court, unraveled before her, torn between guilt and desire. Jasmine, emboldened by his weakness, let herself believe she was in control. Guilt clawed at Hale's mind after that night. He found himself questioning every decision, every moment leading to this point. Yet, despite his internal turmoil, he couldn't stay away. Jasmine became an addiction. Her youth, her fearlessness, everything he wasn't. He told himself it was just this once, just tonight. But deep down, he knew that was a lie. Jasmine, on the other hand, reveled in the danger. She walked the halls of the courthouse with newfound confidence, exchanging secret glances with the man who, just days before, felt unreachable. Their relationship, built on secrecy and temptation, teetered on the edge of disaster. The world outside remained oblivious, for now, but every hidden meeting, every whispered promise was another step down a path neither could escape. And with each passing day, the line between love, obsession, and ruin blurred further. Angela Hale, his wife, noticed. Her sharp eyes caught the small details, the faint perfume on his shirts, the late-night texts he hastily deleted, the way he drifted away at dinner. She didn't confront him immediately. Angela was strategic. Confrontation without evidence wasn't her style. Instead, she watched, piecing together the puzzle, her suspicion growing heavier with each passing day. Hale felt the weight of her gaze but brushed off the discomfort, telling himself he could control everything. He had to. Jasmine, meanwhile, grew bolder. No longer content with stolen moments, she began testing him. What if we went out together? What if people knew? Her questions weren't innocent. They were calculated. Hale's nerves frayed under the pressure. Every glance from a coworker felt accusatory. Every conversation with Angela a minefield. And then there was Marcus Reed, a local journalist known for digging where he wasn't wanted. Reed, always quick to spot cracks in public figures, noticed Hale's recent inconsistencies and began asking questions. Hale tried to contain the situation. He told Jasmine to be careful, to stop pushing boundaries, but she smirked. "Admit it, you like the danger." Her confidence was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. His phone filled with messages from her, some affectionate, others demanding. The balance of power between them shifted. What started as his temptation had turned into her leverage. In his chambers late one evening, Hale sat at his desk, head in his hands. His phone buzzed. Another text from Jasmine. What would everyone think if they knew? His chest tightened. Across town, Marcus Reed compiled notes, suspicious of the judge's odd behavior. And at home, Angela stared at her husband's side of the bed, empty yet again, anger simmering beneath her composed exterior. Lies layered over lies, the web tightening with every decision made. The trap was no longer something Hale could avoid. It was closing in, and he wasn't sure if it was Jasmine, Marcus, or his own choices that would be his undoing. They met at an upscale hotel room that had become their makeshift escape. Jasmine, dressed with calculated perfection, lounged on the bed as Hale paced the room, running his hands through his hair. "This has to stop," he muttered, voice low. Jasmine tilted her head, feigning innocence. Stop! Or are you just scared people will finally see the real you? Her words hit like a slap, sharp and deliberate. He stopped pacing, jaw tight. You don't understand. If this gets out, I lose everything. My job, my family, my life. Jasmine stood, closing the distance between them. Her gaze was steady, challenging. And what about me, Donovan? I'm not some secret you can hide away. I have power too. She pulled out her phone, the screen glowing with a recorded conversation. Their voices unmistakable. Hale's heart sank. Panic clawed at his throat. What is that? Insurance, she said softly. In case you decide to forget about me. Hale's mind raced. His world, once built on certainty, now balanced on a knife's edge. Every option seemed worse than the last. You're blackmailing me, he whispered, disbelief mixing with fear. Jasmine shrugged. Call it whatever you want. I just know I won't be your secret anymore. Her words echoed in the room, settling like a weight neither could ignore. Hale reached for her phone, but she pulled back. Careful, she warned. One wrong move, and this goes everywhere. His hands dropped to his sides, defeat creeping in. Why are you doing this? He asked, voice cracking. Jasmine's smile faltered. Because I thought I mattered to you. For a moment, the tension shifted, vulnerability flickering between them. But it was gone just as quickly, replaced by cold resolve. Outside, city lights flickered, oblivious to the storm brewing inside that room. Choices had been made, lines crossed that could never be uncrossed. Jasmine walked to the door, pausing to glance back. Figure it out, Donovan, or I will. The door clicked shut behind her, leaving Hale standing in the suffocating silence. His world was slipping through his fingers, and for the first time, he realized he was no longer in control. He closed the door, locking it with a soft click that sounded louder than it should. We need to talk, he said. Jasmine glanced around, unimpressed by the grandeur of his home. Talk? Is that what we're calling it now? Her tone was playful, but there was an edge beneath it, a challenge. Hale rubbed his face, exhausted. This is out of control. You're out of control. Jasmine laughed. I'm out of control? You're the one who couldn't keep his hands to himself. He clenched his fists, trying to hold back anger that was boiling too close to the surface. I've lost everything because of this, he snapped. Jasmine's expression hardened. And you think I haven't? You used me, Donovan. Her words cut deep, guilt clashing with frustration. It wasn't supposed to be like this, he muttered. Jasmine pulled out her phone, thumb hovering over the screen. One upload, and everyone sees what you really are. Panic flared in his chest. Don't, he warned, voice shaking. Please, Jasmine's eyes gleamed. I gave you chances. I begged you to stop hiding me. Her finger moved. In that split second, something inside Hale snapped. He lunged forward. Jasmine yelped, struggling as they grappled. The room seemed to shrink, walls closing in as adrenaline took over. His hand found the drawer, a gun hidden inside for protection. Jasmine's eyes widened. You wouldn't. A flash of movement, a struggle, a deafening bang. Silence. Jasmine staggered back, hand pressed to her chest, blood blooming beneath her fingers. Her knees buckled, collapsing onto the cold marble floor. Hale stood frozen, gun slipping from his grip. His breath came in short, ragged gasps. He stared at her, the reality of what he'd done crashing over him like a wave. Her phone lay nearby, screen cracked but still lit. He dropped to his knees, shaking. No. The rain pounded against the windows, the storm outside nothing compared to the one inside. There was no going back, no undoing the moment that shattered everything. His career, his life, gone in a single irreversible choice. The phone. Jasmine's phone lay on the floor, screen still flickering. He grabbed it, scrolling through texts, voice memos, anything that could be used against him. Delete, delete, delete. His pulse pounded in his ears, drowning out everything but his own ragged breathing. Yet in his frantic cleanup, small details slipped through. The missed camera in the hallway, the fingerprint on the doorknob. The front door creaked open. Hale froze, blood draining from his face. Angela stood there, drenched from the rain, umbrella forgotten at her side. Her eyes dropped to the floor, taking in the scene. The crimson pool, the body, the gun. Her face didn't crumple with shock. She didn't scream. Instead, she looked at him with cold calculation. "What did you do?" Her voice was low, steady. He shook his head, words failing. It wasn't supposed to happen." His voice cracked under the weight of guilt. Angela stepped inside, closing the door behind her. The storm outside seemed to vanish, leaving only the thick, suffocating silence between them. Her gaze didn't leave him as she assessed the room, the disarray, the desperation. She sighed, removing her coat. "We don't have time for regrets." Hale stared at her, disbelief mixing with relief. "You're not calling the police?" Angela's jaw tightened. "And ruin everything? No. We fix this." Her mind was already racing ahead, piecing together alibis, fabricating a story. "A break-in," she said. "You heard a noise, defended yourself. It went wrong." Hale hesitated. "They'll never believe that." Angela's eyes flashed. "They'll believe what we make them believe." Together, they wiped surfaces, staged overturned furniture, shattered a window. Blood smeared under their fingertips as they worked. Every second felt like a lifetime. Angela barked orders. Hale obeyed, too lost to question. Minutes stretched into hours. When the scene looked sufficiently chaotic, Angela glanced at him. "Call 911, she ordered. He stared at the phone, the weight of what they'd done pressing down. As he dialed, Angela looked down at Jasmine one last time, expression unreadable. Sirens wailed in the distance, drawing closer. There was no turning back. Choices had been made, lines had been crossed, and the storm outside raged on, indifferent to the darkness that now lived inside these walls. Inside, Hale sat at the dining table, his hands wrapped around a cup of untouched coffee. His suit, carefully chosen for his police statement, felt too tight, his skin itching beneath the fabric. Across from him, Angela scrolled through her phone, her expression unreadable. "It's already everywhere," she murmured, turning the screen to show a live broadcast. A picture of Jasmine, young and smiling, filled the screen beneath bold text. Who was Jasmine Carter? Hale's throat tightened. He hadn't spoken much since the police left, since he sat in that interrogation room, repeating the lie Angela crafted for him. A break-in, a struggle, a tragic accident. The officers had nodded, jotted down notes, but he could see it in their eyes. The doubt. They weren't convinced. The evidence was stacking up. Journalist Marcus Reed smelled blood in the water. His reports were ruthless, digging into Hale's past, questioning his behavior in recent months. Sources claimed the judge had been acting erratically. One report read, "Could there be more to the story?" Hale clenched his jaw. He had sentenced criminals for less than what he had done. Now he was the one being dissected, his life reduced to whispers and speculation. Outside, protesters gathered. Signs demanding justice bobbed above the crowd. Justice for Jasmine. No one is above the law. Chants rang through the streets, their voices relentless. Hale watched from the window, stomach twisting. He had spent years upholding the law, believing in the system. But now it was the system turning against him. Angela finally looked up from her phone. "We need to get ahead of this," she said. A statement, a show of remorse. "If you act guilty, they'll treat you like you are." Her voice was firm, unshaken, but Hale could see the cracks forming beneath her composed exterior. She was scared. They both were. He exhaled, pressing his fingers against his temples. "And if it's not enough?" Angela's gaze darkened. "Then we fight." Hale turned back to the window, the faces of strangers glaring back at him. The truth was coming for him. He just didn't know if he could outrun it. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Journalists filled the benches, their pens eager to capture every moment of his unraveling. At the prosecution's table sat Marcus Reed, his relentless investigation now woven into the case against Hale. Every scandal, every lie, every deleted message laid bare. Jasmine's mother sat in the front row, her face expressionless, but her eyes burning with quiet fury. The trial began with cold precision. The prosecutor painted Hale as a man of hypocrisy, a judge who had condemned criminals while living a double life. They presented the security footage, grainy but damning. Hale, pacing after the gunshot. Hale, deleting files. Hale. dragging Jasmine's body across the floor before the panic set in. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Angela, sitting stiff-backed behind him, didn't flinch. Then came the witnesses. Jasmine's best friend took the stand, voice shaking as she spoke about the nights Jasmine had whispered her secrets, the way she had laughed, convinced she was in control. A forensic expert followed, detailing how the gun was fired at close range, how the crime scene had been tampered with. Hale sat motionless, his body betraying nothing. But inside, his world was caving in. Finally, it was his turn. The moment he had dreaded, he stepped onto the stand, forcing himself to meet the jury's eyes. The defense painted him as a desperate man, manipulated by a reckless girl. "I loved her," he admitted, voice cracking. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs. "But I never wanted this." He pleaded for sympathy, for understanding, but the words felt hollow even to himself. Then the prosecutor played the final card, a recording. Jasmine's voice, clear and taunting. "What if everyone knew?" A pause. Then his own voice, colder than he remembered. "Then we both go down." Silence. The verdict came swiftly. Guilty. As the gavel slammed down, sealing his fate, Hale felt the last remnants of his old life slip away. Angela stood, already stepping back, distancing herself from him before the shackles even locked around his wrists. The courtroom blurred as officers led him away. The judge who had once passed sentences now became the sentenced. And outside, the world cheered his fall. Time crawled in prison. Inmates whispered when he passed by, some sneering, others offering no more than cold stares. The judge who fell from grace. His meals were tasteless, his days filled with nothing but reflection. Letters arrived, most unopened. Legal notices, media inquiries, and, worst of all, the divorce papers from Angela. She had taken everything. The house, the assets, the carefully curated life they built. He signed the papers without protest, his signature a final surrender. Jasmine's mother stood at her daughter's grave, fingers tracing the carved letters. "You were just a child," she whispered to the silent headstone, grief etched into every syllable. Across town, the world moved on, news cycles fading, protests quieting. But for Hale, the noise never stopped. Every breath felt like penance, every heartbeat a reminder of choices made too late. Then came the letter, slid under his cell door, unmarked. Hale's fingers trembled as he opened it. Inside was a USB drive. Hours later, seated in a small room under flickering lights, he listened to the recording. The one Jasmine had made. Her voice, alive again through the speakers, filled the air with laughter, bitterness, and truths he had tried to bury. "I wonder how you'll feel when this plays," she said, her tone both mocking and sad. "Did you ever really love me, or was it just the game?" Tears welled up, sliding down his face. He whispered to the empty room, voice barely audible. She won. Outside, the world turned without him. Inside, he was left with nothing but memories, regrets, and a truth that refused to be silenced. The fall wasn't just from grace, it was into a darkness he could never climb out of. Thank you for watching this captivating story of betrayal, obsession, and the price of choices. What would you have done if you were in Judge Hale's position? Leave your comments below and share your thoughts and reflections on this emotional and powerful story. We want to hear your opinion. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet, so you won't miss our most exciting videos. Remember to like the video and activate the notification bell to stay updated with all our latest stories.